And hello again, and here we are indoors on a very cold, wet, horrible day, and I've dug out this part here because this is the chain guard, or as was belt guard, from my Merch 131 Harley sort of Softail. And the reason it's here is because I want to replace it. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. It's pretty well made. It's all a one-off piece in stainless steel, and yeah, it's done well over the years. It's got a few marks on it where actually I had I think it was 3 belts snap on the bike back in the day. It makes a lot of power and the belts couldn't handle it, so it's got a few dents in it where I think the belt snapped and damaged the stainless steel. Although it's actually pretty well made. It's got these reinforcing pieces here, and it fits on the bike by bolting to the inside of the swing arm. So I can't really change that. The holes have been drilled and tapped, so I need to keep this particular method of mounting a chain guard. And the reason why I want to change it is not because it's a bit dented or a little bit old now, it's because it doesn't really suit the bike. Now I've changed it over the years. This was actually made originally for a belt rather than a chain, so it's quite wide. And also this little area here, this little hole, this strange cutout, was put there to match the original wheels on the bike. Now I was going to try and explain that to you, but in fact I was digging around the other day looking for some old paperwork when I came across this old sketch pad. And let me just zoom out a wee bit. And this old sketch pad is something I put together at the time I was building the bike. So that's sort of, what, 18, 19 years ago now. So it's pretty old. And in here are some ideas I had as the bike came together. And what I was doing was trying to sort of come up with some ideas for the paint job, some ideas for a name, some ideas for some of the details on the bike, like where the speed was going to go and so on and so on. So there's some ideas there, look, for a paint job when originally it was going to be red with some white stripes. That didn't happen in the end. And we can go through here looking for some ideas and so on. But later on, before we had YouTube and before we had vlogs and whatever, I took a few photographs, and here's some old photographs from the days when it was being put together. Let's just make sure you guys can see that. So here's some photographs, and let's have a look. That's from November 01. This is in the workshop of the guys in Southport in England who built the bike for me back then. Yeah, so what I can show you in fact is the wheels. You can see here the frame. It was all pre-painted, it was just being assembled there. I was just looking for some ideas and so on. There's a little old-fashioned peanut tank of a Sportster, and there's a tank actually used in the end, which is from a later Sportster. I actually preferred that particular tank. It looked fantastic, but having a tank that holds 2 gallons on a 2-litre engine wasn't a good idea. I probably wouldn't get more than 50 miles from a tank full if I did that. But yeah, so if we move over here a little bit, and as you can see here where the engine turned up from Canada in its little cardboard box, and here we can see how the engine doesn't fit in the frame. Before we had to modify it, we had to actually cut out this top tube and raise it. So yeah, there's some of the problems you have when you're building a completely one-off bike. And in fact here you can see where we tried out a different tank. That's more like you tried sort of teardrop big twin tank, which I didn't really like. And in fact there you can see the steel struts which help support the rear fender. I actually kept those. They were cut down a wee bit and then moulded into the carbon fibre fender that we made for the bike. And what I'm showing you here are the wheels. You see here, these are Rick's wheels. I think they were called Bob wheels, and the shape of these cutouts kind of matches the shape there. But those wheels were 16-inch, and I had a 160 on the front, a 200 on the back, and the back wheel wasn't too bad, but having a 160 on the front back then, my God, the handling was terrible. It didn't want to turn. Particularly if you braked into a turn, it would sit up and you'd fight the bike. So in the end I swapped over to how it is now with 17-inch wheels, which in turn dropped the ride height, which in turn meant I've recently had to change the rear end to raise the bike up again. But you know, it's all good fun. So yeah, that's the bike as was. Here we have pre-paint, things are coming together, making a seat base, all the electrics are there. Actually this is quite interesting. Just focus on this area here. Obviously the bike's not painted here, and the paintwork was actually done by Pearsdale one of the best painters, I think, in Europe, if not the world. And when I'm talking to him, he was coming up with some ideas for the paint. I wanted Ducati red with some sort of ghost flames, but nothing too complicated, very sort of graphic. So looking at this card here, this is actually a sprayed card with the colour combo that Piers Dowell was thinking of using on the bike. I mean, obviously not finished because there's no pinstripes or whatever, but he just sent me that to say, look, this is the sort of combination that I would like to use. Because at the time I wasn't too sure about the contrast between the darker red and the Ducati red. But then I sort of saw this and thought, yeah, I like that, we'll go with this. Now these days he'd probably just email me the colours and I'd say yay or nay, but back then, I think we had email back then actually, yeah, I think I had email back in about 1999, but he probably didn't, or at least we didn't have the colour correction and the sort of correct colours that you could email back into, so he used to send me things like this, just little cards sprayed with the correct colours so you knew what you were going to get. Yeah, so that's quite interesting, a bit of a blast from the past, and we keep on going, and there's all the paintwork coming together. And yeah, there's Dave Francis, the lad who built the bike for me from Big Twin Services. I think he's still going, he's still working mainly on shovel heads these days from home, so hope he's doing okay. Sadly his partner died some time ago, so anyway, yeah, so there's the bike being assembled at last, and that's how it looked back in the day. I mean, the bike's actually changed quite a lot over the years. It's got different pipes, it's got different seat, it's got different brakes. Yeah, it's been changed quite a lot. I'm just looking at this now actually, and remembering back, what, 17 years ago. So there we go. Yeah, and there's the bike back at home. This is dated September 04. I think I actually got it back around about July of that year, so it was a very long-winded build. It took me about 2.5 years to get it finished. And yeah, you can see here those big fat tyres. It's got a belt drive. As I say, I actually snapped 3 belts before I swapped over to chain drive. But yeah, looks pretty cool there, and actually it does look better, I think, with those big fat tyres, but then again it handles like a bag of spuds. I don't know, it's just terrible. So I'm quite happy that I swapped over to the 17s in the end. Yeah, so there's a bit of history of the bike before we had YouTube and vlogs and all the rest of it. That's kind of like an old-fashioned way of recording things and coming up with some ideas. Okay, so here's a few sketches I've made of what the new chain guard might look like. I mean, this is my first idea. The whole thing's billet, and I'm going to have some sort of ball milling here to reflect the same ball milling on the wheels. The problem is, this is going to be quite a big thing, and it's going to attract the eye. And the whole point of changing the old one is that I want something less sort of in your face, less obvious on the bike, so that doesn't really work. And the next one here is a sort of two-piecer where we've got the top part in a sort of angled alloy, and then we've got a flat plate here bolted to it for the mount. And originally I thought, well, hang on, the spokes of the wheel look something like this with a sort of ball milling here in the middle. Maybe I could reflect that, but then again it looks like, well, hang on a minute, you're trying a bit hard there. This is looking a bit too big, a bit too kind of heavy-handed, so again, not too happy with that. And then of course I've got to remember the fact that this is actually not straight, it's got to be angled front to back like this, like that, so that's something to bear in mind. So my simple solution, and it is quite simple, is just to make it in 2 parts. Got an angled alloy top and a simple flat plate here to mount it to the inside of the swing arm. Obviously I can't change that because these mounting holes are fixed. You can't change those, it's on the swing arm, it's been drilled and tapped, so no way am I going to change that now. Now there are some options though. I mean, I could maybe ball mill a line in here which reflects the same ball milling on the spokes of the wheel, or maybe I could put some ball milling here or even there. At the moment I'm not quite sure whether I'll bolt these together with little countersunk bolts or get them welded so you can't see them. I'm not sure yet. It doesn't really matter, I can make that decision at a later date. So yeah, very simple idea, nothing complicated. I'll just round off the edges here in profile, and at the back here, instead of having it as a sharp kind of edge like that, I'm just going to curve it so that it's nice and smooth and looks a bit neater. So that's a pretty simple process, nothing complicated about it, and sometimes the simplest ideas are the best. So I think that's what I'm going to go for. So yeah, there's the plan. I mean, obviously I will actually redraw this out much more accurately with some accurate measurements of heights and widths and so on. And then once the stock arrives, we can crack on and make the thing. So thanks for watching and cheers.